Man, Zoom did me in. I'm sitting here, I'm listening to a song, and I'm like, oh, I've got folks listening to some music before we get started. Uh, Zoom. Thank you, everybody. I am thrilled. I'm excited. Can you all hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Because obviously you can't hear my music. That's another story. But if you can hear me okay, wonderful, 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 wonderful. I am excited to get started. I have so much I want to share, but before we get started, while I get my screen share on, I want to know where are you all from. I want to know where you're visiting me from because I think I've got folks from everywhere, and that's got me so hyped right now. It's unbelievable. So tell me where you're visiting from. Let's see, and just tapping in the. Ooh, Sandy, Utah, Charlotte, North Carolina, the DMV, Maryland, Houston, Texas. Love it. Love it. Colorado, the Bay Area. The Bay Area. Did I see the Caribbean? Wow. I'm loving that. I love it. Can you all see let me make sure that you can see my screen share also. I'm trying to share what I've got because we're going to be going through a couple of slides. I want to make sure that you can see all of that. I love all the places that you're visiting me from. It's amazing. I'm excited. I can't wait. All right, let's see. I think where did my Zoom button go? Zoom is making me so happy today. Not really. Here we go. All right, we're gonna try to share one more time. Let's share. All right. Can you see? Oh, perfect. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So let's see. We have Atlanta, but on Florida on vacation. Love it. Love it. Oh, Winchester. I want to make sure that I hit all these wonderful places. Kansas City, Missouri. All right. You know what? It's about to be on and popping. And a fellow Seattleite there. Yes, I was in Seattle, Washington for a few years. So I fondly call areas of Washington home. I'm currently in Utah, but we're going to get to all of that shortly. Thank you so much, like I said, for joining. All the information that I'm sharing with you, I'm going to be sharing a workbook that you can have, and it'll definitely be at your disposal. Uh, Let me tell you, when I was thinking about putting on this 3-day intensive, I was thinking about people like you, like me, who, when we started out doing something that we weren't too familiar with, we kind of wish we had some help. We kind of wish we had somebody who could take us under our wing. And so, what we're going to do for the next couple of days, you're going to be getting my blueprint, not just advice, not some fluff, but we're actually going to do some working sessions while you're on the call with me because, one, I want you to understand the role of the chief of staff. We always talk about no chief of staffs are the same, but there are some core things that every chief of staff needs to do together. And so that's one of the things that I want to do is share with you what some of those similarities are. And then we're going to talk about AI. Um, I don't want you to be scared about AI. Some of you probably have gotten your hands a little bit dirty. Some of you are probably thinking, I don't really know what I'm going to do with AI. Stick it out with me for the next couple of days. I'm going to help you get very comfortable with AI. I am a chief of staff. I'm a chief of staff at Microsoft. I founded my own company, professional executive coaching, created a chief of staff academy. And so the things I'm going to share with you, like I said, they're grounded in the frameworks that have helped me be successful in the things that I'm doing. And I want to share that with you so you can be successful. So let me ask a question for those of you who are either aspiring chief of staffs, your current chief of staffs, or you're just curious, you don't know if you're doing the work of a chief of staff or if you even want to step into the role of chief of staff. Have you ever been in a position where you had to lead and you didn't have any authority? I mean, you're just getting ish done every day, all day, every day. That is what a strategic planner does. Thank you, Monique. Absolutely. We just get stuff done. We see what is happening in the landscape and we lean in and we handle that. What I'm going to share with you over the next couple of days, like I said, we're going to ground in on what is a chief of staff, what is a strategic operator, what are some of the similarities, and how you can actually use AI to help you with time savings. Have you all heard people say AI is a great time saver? I do. I hear it all the time. They say, oh, it's going to save all of this time. I'm going to actually show you how AI is going to save you time. So we're not going to talk about it. We're going to be about it. So what we're going to do is start to craft what your executive brand looks like. And if you have an executive brand, what do we do to take it another step forward? The statement that I've always been heard is, don't play small. I'm sure you've heard it too. Don't play small. You're not serving anybody. What does it mean not to play small? It means that we're going to craft what your story is. We're going to create that framework where the rooms that necessarily weren't built for you, you can step into that room and you can lead with authority and the confidence that you have. You can prepare to be in the C-suite. I never imagined being in the C-suite. I never imagined leading the initiatives that I did. And I didn't have a roadmap. I'm going to give you a roadmap. I'm going to show you the things that worked for me. And hopefully you can take that back to where you are and those things can work for you. I'm bringing my whole self. I'm going to bring my faith. I'm going to bring my wins, my losses, my setbacks, my victories, everything. And over the next couple of days, I'm going to invite you to do the same with me. Because when we lead with vulnerability, it's amazing the things that happen. And so I am, like I said, so excited to have you all join me on this call. I want the one big thing that you get out of this is your personal blueprint on how do you become your executive's most trusted advisor. And that's going to be powered through human intelligence, you, and AI. And that's what I built this workshop for, is for people like you who are like, I need to try to do something different. I don't want to keep burning out when I'm trying to translate all of this executive vision. I want to be able to move with intelligence and actually have the strategic impact I'm capable of having and I know that I can do. And then we can take that, the word that's so overused, the performance multiplier, and really talk about what does it mean to be a performance multiplier. You start removing roadblocks, you start supporting and creating strategy. You realize that you are being strategic. And that is the beautiful thing about it. You may be drowning in operations. Every single day, you've got this, you've got a list that's so long. Oh my goodness, you want to burn it and then you got to restart it again. Well, let's figure out how to make sure that you're not drowning in that. And so you can lead with confidence, you can lead with clarity, you can lead with purpose. And that's what this moment is for you, and that's what this moment is for me. So thank you again for joining the next couple of days and definitely tonight. So first of all, I want to talk about who this is for. And if this is you, say yes in the chat. Are you the person who you're tired of being everything to everybody, but you are not seen? Are you the person who is always holding the team together behind the scenes? Like nobody knows that you're doing it, but you're doing it all of the time. Are you the person who you have a messy situation and you know how to clean it up? Nobody's giving you a playbook. Thank you, Kate. Kim, I see that 100%. Absolutely. Are you the person who you walk into a meeting, you have a lot of ideas, but you don't say anything, and then somebody else says what you were thinking, and you're like, wow, why was I quiet? Right? I should have said that. I was thinking that, and I have a plan for that. Are you the person who you're doing the work of strategy, but you don't have that title, but you do that work? Thank you, Jennifer. Sherry, thank you. Absolutely. Like we are in those situations where we are leading, we are strategizing, we are pulling things together, but nobody's seeing it. Nobody's recognizing it. Well, I want to show you how you can lead boldly. And you don't need permission to do what you do so well. That's who this is for. It's for that person who's like, I'm done. I'm taking it. I'm taking it, and I'm going to run, and I'm going to accomplish the things that I know that I can accomplish. It's for that person who's craving a space, even though the space wasn't built for them. So stick around, because that's what we're going to talk about now. This next picture is my favorite picture. Sherry, this is being recorded, and you will get the recording. Absolutely. If you are looking for a quick fix, if you don't really want to go deep, you just want something that's going to scratch an itch. So we've all been in the situation where we have to do root cause analysis, but sometimes we're not treating the root, we're treating a symptom. If you just want to treat the symptom, this might not be for you. If you're okay with just the status quo, like I'm good with things being the way that they are, and AI is going to replace me anyway. So I'm just going to let AI do all of my thinking, and I'll just show up and catch a check. If that's where your mind is, this might not be for you, because you know what? We're going to be telling the truth. We're going to be building bridges. You are the quiet powerhouses. That's what I call you guys. You are the big vision thinkers. And so I'm very excited to spend this hour with you. So let me tell you a little bit about me so you know who I am and why I'm doing this. I had an amazing sponsor who I was talking to, and I said, I want to write a book. It was never on my bucket list, ever, ever, ever. And I said, I think I want to write a book about being a chief of staff. And he said, so do it, and just challenged me. And I wrote a book about being a chief of staff, a lot of the foundational things that people need to know about being a chief of staff. And it was received so well that I'm in the process of writing a second book. And I'm a bit of a trilogy nerd, so there'll be a third one. And so I love this work. I have been able to work for some amazing companies. And as you can see, Edmunds, Disney, Apple. So I have to tell you a funny story about Netscape and Microsoft. So I'm dating myself. So those of you who know Netscape, we're all in the same boat. A couple years ago, not a couple, but more than a couple. But several years ago, back when the internet was new and fresh, Netscape and Microsoft battled to have browser war dominance. And at the time, because the internet was so new and fresh, Netscape had over 70% market share in the browser space. That is unheard of for a company to have that much market share in anything. But we had 70%, and Microsoft wanted a piece of that pie. And I swore I would never work for Microsoft. They were, and the wonderful thing about time and experience is that not only people, but organizations can change. And I'm happily celebrating my 10 years with Microsoft next month. And so it's really interesting for me how that's come full circle. And so before I even had the title of a chief of staff, I was already holding things down. I was the one that people were turning to because I think that's who you are. I am a daughter of immigrants. My parents come from the beautiful island of Haiti, and my father and my mother, they're people of faith, and they were doing things before they were given permission. They were trying to figure out how they were going to do things uh, in the United States when they moved here, and I was learning from them. I was working hard because I saw them work extremely hard. I was just keeping things moving. And when I entered the corporate space, I was learning so much, but then I would always ask myself the question, is there a space for someone like me at the table? Have you asked yourself that question? Is there space for you at that table? Many times I was the only person who looked like me. And when I say who looked like me, who was either a woman or a Black woman in those spaces. When I would look at different opportunities for companies that I want to work at, I would look at who was on their executive board, who was in their board of directors. And if I could at least see a woman, I thought, well, there's a path. And if I didn't even see a woman, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to work really hard if that's the path I want to craft for myself. And that can be very hard, and it can be very, very lonely when you are the only. And so I worked very hard at crafting who I was, building my brand, and then bringing others along with me. And the interesting thing is as I was building my brand, the pay didn't necessarily always match the work that I was doing. Have you felt that before? Like they give you a whole bunch of stuff to do, and when you ask, can you up the salary? Can I get a bonus? Well, not yet, not yet. Let me share an experience with you. I was working for an organization, and I was given one of their harder projects, and we were signing an enterprise agreement with one of our vendors. And I had talked to the senior account manager of this organization. I said, I think it'd be cool to come and work for your company. And he said, we can make that happen. Everybody really likes you. And I was like, all right, let's figure out how to make that happen. A couple weeks later, he came back and he said, you know what? I was telling the CTO that we're looking at bringing you over, and he said, you can take anybody, but stay away from Anne Marie. Excuse me? They understand your value, but they're not always willing to pay for what that value is. You have to understand your value so you know when you need to make a change and what are the things that you need to do to make that change. I made a change. I'm very used to navigating through corporate spaces. That was the thing that I've always been doing, and being the one, the only. I didn't have a problem being able to speak my voice and do the things that I needed to. I was studying how power was moving. So I would sit back, I would listen, I would observe, I would take notes, and then I made the change. The reason I'm doing this is because I think about people who would love to have that help, who want to understand, what does that look like? I was thinking about others who are like me, who might look like me. Let me ask you, have you ever felt like you had to perform a version of leadership that didn't necessarily feel true to who you were? And what did that cost you? What does being seen at work really mean, and what does it look like for you? And when was the last time you actually felt that way, that you were seen, you were heard, you were appreciated for the impact, and you were compensated for that impact? Have you felt overlooked? Have you felt overlooked and then saw somebody next to you who was less qualified, who got the kudos that should have come to you? Well, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I created the Chief of Staff Academy. I want you to understand, what does it mean to lead with your values without having to harden or feel like you have to perform? What does it feel like to have a blueprint of somebody who's walked the walk and they're willing to walk that walk with you? And most importantly, in today's day, what does AI look like in being able to help you facilitate that journey, to get you to develop that career path and get you to the goal that you want? That's why I wrote the book. I wrote it for every leader who's been told to shrink and we don't want to. I'm not trying to just coach. I want to build leaders. I want to inspire people. And I want it to just move forward so all of us can be feeling of that goodness. So let's jump right into it. What is the thing that I wanted back then? How many of you want to be seen? If you want to be seen, type seen in the chat. It's not simple. And it's not easy. Oh my goodness, look at all these people. I see all of you. So first of all, let me tell you, Jennifer, Kim, Eric, Daniela, Dana, Beth, Natasha, I see you. Thank you. We want to be seen. We don't want to just feel like we're performing. We want, Emily, you said it right there, compensation to match the value I'm told to provide. Boom. I know you felt that. I felt that. Compensation to match the value that I'm providing. I want to lead without compromising myself. I want to lead in a way that doesn't require me to compromise anything about me, and I want to be powerful about it. And so I went about creating a space for people like me who, you probably don't fit the traditional mold of leadership. And you all know what I mean when I say that. But you carry this quiet strength and clarity and vision all the same. I not only wanted a seat at the table, I wanted to reshape the table. I remember former President Barack Obama had said in an interview, we're all vying to get a seat at the table. We all want to sit at the table. And then when you get to the table, if you remember what he said, you realize the people that are at the table, they ain't all that. Have you ever got to the table and went, why was I fighting to get here? Let's reshape that table. I don't want to feel like I have to convince other people that I'm qualified when others are not as qualified. I don't want to be in a situation, thank you, Jennifer. Yes, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm being passed up for roles when somebody else isn't doing the work that I'm doing. I remember a time where I was working for an organization and they were trying to get on the diversity and inclusion tip, but it was very performative. And we all know when it's performative. Being the only in that group, I was asked, well, can you take on these initiatives? Have you ever been asked to do something and you wanted to say no, but you couldn't? That doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit well with my core. But you don't want to quiet quit. You don't want to get angry. And honestly, how many vacation days can you take? Because I know I couldn't take that many vacation days. So here I am taking on all of this extra work. I'm showing up, I'm doing everything, voluntold assignments. We don't got time for that. I will raise my hand. I will gladly take on the work, but I don't want to be voluntold. And so creating a space where we can gather with brilliance, that's what I love. That's what I'm enjoying. And that's what I'm going to help you understand the power of an effective strategic operator, somebody who can sit in the C-suite without having the traditional path to get there. So sit tight, let's get started. Are you tired of being the behind the scenes fixer with no path forward? You are the only one that's creating space for others, but no one is creating that space for you. Think about what it would feel like to have somebody hold that space for you. Feels good. Think about the one thing you're doing today that you don't want to do, but saying no is not an option. I'm gonna go back to what you typed, Veronica, being voluntold something. Let's stop doing it the hard way. Let me show you some shortcuts that actually work. And I want you to also think about at the end of these 3 days, what is the thing that you want to walk away with? Because I want to make sure that you also have some actionable tools that when you're done, you're like, not only did I have a good time and I listened to the absent music, but we talked about some real things and I can actually apply this stuff today, not next week, not next month, not next year. We are going to transform together. And so I want you, like I said, to not only have a seat at the table, reshape the table, make it look like the thing that you want it to look like so you can bring your people along and we can start to make sure that there's a lot of inclusivity that's happening. Because let's be real, you're probably already doing the work. Just because you don't have the title doesn't mean that you're not doing the work. You're already building the departments. You're already untangling all of the chaos. You're already leading projects. And sometimes I like to tease and say, you're leading projects with duct tape and grit. And so creating that seat at the table, learning the framework, and then doing as much as you can to try to future-proof your career as much as possible. It's not 100%, but if you put in the work and you do the steps, it's possible to get as close to that as possible. So we're going to talk about, first off, what is a chief of staff? And I'm going to break down a couple of the roles of a chief of staff. We're not going to be able to cover all of the roles of a chief of staff because, to be honest, you all know that you're doing way too much and you got way too many roles. But we're going to cover some of the key roles of a chief of staff. The first thing, we always hear that the chief of staff is a strategic partner. Well, what does that mean? You're building trust. You are establishing credibility with your executive team. And the way that you do that is to be a reliable and a consistent person and using discretion. Trust is the foundation of executive relationships in the strategic space. So you definitely want to do that. You're also going to be protecting your principal's time. Now, it doesn't mean that you are managing that person's calendar per se, because you're probably going to be working with an executive assistant who handles that. But what it means is you understand what is required of that executive, where you need to step in, where you need to delegate, and how you understand what's going on with the strategy of the work. So you're really, the next point, anticipating needs. You're staying 2 steps ahead because you understand the goals and you also understand what are the roadblocks that are occurring. The final one is around creating a trusted space where you can provide some candid feedback. Let me share an example with you where this happened. I started working for a principal, and within it was about the first month, she had decided she wanted to engage with a coach that she'd worked with for a very, very long time. And she said, "You know what? The team's familiar with this coach. We just need to re up this contract, and we're good to go." And I said, "Absolutely no problem. Let's figure it out. Give me the coach's name." And I had received some very good counseling from a stakeholder who's also involved, who I went to for when I was whiteboarding ideas and I needed another opinion. And this person said, make sure you talk to the team before you jump into this, because they may have some feedback about this coach. And so I took that advice and I went to the leadership body and I probably met with about 80% of the leaders. And I said, hey, we're looking at starting up coaching again, and we're looking at bringing this coach back. And I wrote up some very simple questions that I didn't have any skin in the game. I didn't know one from the other. So they were very generic questions about what did you think of the engagement? What did you learn? Things of that nature. Overwhelmingly, everybody said they didn't want to work with the coach again. I had been with this leader for a month. We were starting to establish some trust, some credibility, but I hadn't done enough that I had established that to my liking. And she was still getting to know me. And now I was going to go in and have a conversation with her about this coach. And there was some anxiety, to say the least. And again, I talked to some trusted mentors on how to craft the conversation. And one of the things that I had mentioned earlier is sometimes you have to lead with vulnerability. Now you've got to be comfortable doing that. If that's not something that you feel you have a strength in, recognize that and don't put yourself in a situation where you feel like you're compromising yourself. I feel comfortable most of the time leading with vulnerability, so it wasn't a problem for me. So I went to this leader and I said, I want to share something with you because I'm getting some feedback about this coach, and honestly, just so you know, my nerves are a little shot right now. And she said, Anne Marie, why? Why are your nerves shot? What's going on? And I said, well, I'm going to share with you some feedback that may not necessarily align with what you were thinking about this coach. And then we had the conversation. She was gracious and she responded with vulnerability. We ended up not going with the coach that she had initially anticipated. I had a lot of data. I didn't bring emotion into the conversation. And I also shared the fact that I was trying to do what was best for the organization, for this leader and the team with the knowledge that I had. And I wanted her to realize that I wanted to be that trusted partner. And she did trust me. It's not easy to build an environment where you can have candid conversations. But if you don't have the trust, and that's what, as a chief of staff, as a strategic operator, you're doing, you're building that environment so people can have those conversations and feel comfortable, because they're not always going to be easy. They're not always going to be pretty. And sometimes, even if you feel confident and comfortable, you're going to have some anxiety behind that. And so the strategic partner encompasses a lot. So regardless of what industry you're in, every chief of staff is a strategic partner. And so you can be in tech, you can be in finance, you can be in entertainment. That's still your key role. This next one, and I see that I've got the word relationships in there twice, so that's making me smile. But you're also going to be managing executive relationships. What does that mean? How is your team moving? Do you know how the team moves? How do people want to receive that information? As the strategic operator, you're going to be understanding who the stakeholders are, who are the game players, who are the people that are key to the success of what you are doing, and what is the best way to make sure that they stay plugged in and that there's alignment and connection with the work that's being done. So you've got to learn not only how your team is processing information, but how your executive is processing information. And then you adapt your voice to match theirs. Now, it doesn't mean that you give up who you are for that person. I was having a conversation with a woman that I mentored, and she brought to my recollection a movie that highlighted the concept of being in alignment with your executive so well visually. Now, the movie is Pacific Rim, and love it or hate it, I don't know what side of the fence you are with that movie. I love monster flicks. I love robots. I love all of that stuff. And so for me, I enjoyed Pacific Rim. But there's a concept in that movie called the drift. And it's where you have two independent operators that are inside of the machine, and they have to think in concert to operate the machine. And if one is out of whack, the machine, the giant robot machine doesn't work well. And the concept of the drift is even though you are two independent individuals, you are aligned in vision and in thought, and you are moving seamlessly to be able to accomplish the thing that you've got to do. That is the relationship between an executive, a principal, and their chief of staff. They are two independent parties that are working in concert to be able to accomplish the thing that is best for the team or the organization. So that's what I mean when I say you have to learn how to adapt to understand what your performance, your executive needs, but it's still you as a person. I never gave up myself, but I worked in partnership with that individual. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Have you had people tell you, man, you're an excellent communicator? I've had people share that with me. The first role I had when I was working for a startup was in marketing because I loved marketing. I loved everything about it. And I recall the vice president of engineering coming to me and saying, hey, Anne Marie, have you ever thought about working with my engineers? And I went, no, I can't engineer my way out of anything. No, I'm good with marketing. And he said, well, the reason I want you to consider it is because when you take the marketing concepts and you explain it to them, they get it. They understand what they need to do. You are a communicator. You are translating things. You're understanding the team. You're understanding where the alignment needs to happen, and they're able to see the value in the work that they're doing because you're helping them see that. Conflict resolution. Some people love and they thrive in conflict. Others, they shy away from it. Either way, you're going to be working with conflict. You're going to have teams that are siloed who want to do what they want to do and they know how to do it. And if you're the person who doesn't mind stepping in the middle of that and getting teams who don't want to work together, you are exhibiting a lot of skills and being able to work with your team. The last thing that I wanted to bring up here is that you're a strategic thought partner. You're taking all of these things that we've talked about and you're putting it in a case, and you're working effectively with that team so they understand what's expected of them. Cross-functional leadership. Every strategic partner has to figure out how they're going to work with teams across departments. So do you know how to map power structures? All that means is that you're identifying who the stakeholders are, what they need to do, and who can delegate what. Are you looking to make sure that you've got alignment within the teams? All that means is that you're looking at what are the departmental goals and how is it supporting the company strategy? You're facilitating these conversations with these siloed teams. I touched on conflict resolution. Again, being able to work in an environment, whether it's a startup or an enterprise company, understanding that you've got multiple perspectives. And even though people want to hold on to their agenda, helping them understand how they plug that agenda into the bigger picture and defining what decisioning looks like. And then being that executive liaison, can you speak on behalf of your leadership team? As a strategic partner, that's something that you do. You understand enough of what's going on in the organization, and you can speak credibly and deliberately about what's going on with that organization. The last thing that I want to touch on when it comes to a chief of staff is strategic initiative management. You are driving some of those bigger initiatives. Sometimes you see that there's a gap and you have to drive it. Other times you're being asked, can you take this on? So an easy framework. And like I said, you're going to get these slides, but if you feel like you want to screen grab any of this stuff, you go right ahead. No issues here. You're going to define what is that vision. What is the purpose of the thing that you're doing? Why and how? Do you find that you are naturally leading things? Well, so once you've defined that vision, you're aligning the stakeholders. You're trying to build some sort of consensus within the group. And then when you look at necessary resources, it's not only people, but it's the tools, it's the software, it's the application, it's everything that goes along with that initiative. And then when you drive the execution, it doesn't mean that you are necessarily doing the work. This is where RACES and DACES play a role. Who's responsible? Who's accountable? Who needs to be consulted or informed? And in a lot of the initiatives, you may be responsible, but you may be accountable, but you may not be doing the actual work. So you're building together that matrix team that can help you drive that initiative to completion, and then always, always measure impact. Strategic operators are known for being able to quantify results, even if you don't hit the goal. Even if you don't get to the thing that you need to get to, you're still able to provide the narrative around the thing that you were trying to do. So you've got all of this understanding of the chief of staff. Well, what does it look like if you want to be chief of staff? Um, what does that career path look like? The entry point is different for a lot of different people. For me, I started out as a project manager. That was my first entry into corporate America. I was the go-to person. I liked planning things. I will be married for 8 years coming up in this coming year. And when my husband proposed, I said, I want to plan the wedding. And it's not because I don't think the job of a wedding planner is not difficult, but it's because I like planning things. And in 3 months, I planned our entire wedding. Is that you? Do your friends come to you and say, "Can you just take care of this?" And if they know that you got this, they're comfortable. They don't even worry about anything. So you may not have come into it in a traditional way, but there definitely is a path for you. Um, uh, Thank you, Jennifer. I love that. Jennifer Horton, wedding planner. I know. Then we get to the role mastery portion, and this is where this conversation is so key. How do you up level yourself? How do you get better at the thing that you're doing? And then how do you move on to what's next? Uh, I've shared with a lot of individuals the chief of staff role when it was initially started. If you want to trace the beginnings, and I have a few of my friends who are in the military who share this with me, it started with Napoleon. Napoleon wanted a chief of staff to help him, who was his second in command, who helped him with his troops. And so while he focused heavily on strategy, he partnered with that chief of staff, who also helped him with strategy, but ran the staff. And so when you hear a chief of staff, and if you talk to anybody in the military, they're very familiar with this role. Now it's moved into politics, and it's transitioned into the tech space, into the finance space, and everybody wants a chief of staff. They're not quite sure how to use and leverage a chief of staff effectively. And so there's some education that goes in what that looks like. And the chief of staff role, it used to be something that was very transitional. You did it for a couple of years, you learned the lay of the land, the business, and then you moved on. Where now you have individuals like myself who this is our career path. Like this is my bread and butter. This is what I love doing. And so there's a lot of different opportunities for a person who wants to figure out where they want to go next as a chief of staff. And I love that. Emily, I see your question and I see your comment. And we're going to get to that because that is a great point. Because it's a role that is somewhat less familiar, at least in more of in the commercial space, there's a lot of education that's happening with people understanding how best to leverage a chief of staff. Because when you actually leverage a chief of staff, they don't want to let that person go because that person is literally extending their ability to do the thing that they need to do well. So those are some of the core competencies of a chief of staff. So ask yourself, if you don't have the title, are you already operating as a chief of staff? Are you already understanding what long-term strategy looks like? Are you doing things without people having to map it out for you? Are you the person that they're coming to when they've got questions? Are you the person that your leader says, I have an idea, I need you to help me think through this because I want to make sure that I've covered all of this? There's so much. We have just scratched the surface of what a chief of staff does. And there's not enough time to go into so much detail of a chief of staff. But I think that a lot of you, I've been looking at the comments, a lot of you understand that that chief of staff is doing a lot to just push the business along and push the organization, as well as be a great partner and to that leader that they're supporting. So I'm gonna pause here because I want to get to this next one, because I know this is where a lot of you had questions. And Lisa Ann, I can see your messages. It's right now, it's just coming through towards me. So I will always vocalize anything that people have got going on in the chat. I'll make sure that I can change that for tomorrow, though, so you all can interact with each other. But I want to jump into prompt engineering and why does it matter? Right now, there's an explosion with AI. And everybody's trying to figure out how to use it. What is it going to do? How can I best make sure that it's helping me in my work? Well, let's just talk about what is a prompt. A prompt it's just clear instruction, or it's a statement designed so you can get a particular response. So in simple terms, you are telling the thing, AI, what you want from them. So in a conversation, a prompt can be, what are your thoughts on this subject? And you provide a document. In writing, a prompt can be, help me write an email about this particular topic. So prompt engineering, you've got to have the business impact identified. The more context that you provide around that business impact, you're going to get a more accurate response. Now, I say accurate, and there's a caveat, because we are going to talk about some of the biases and hallucinations that you get in AI. But the more data that you provide that is good data, the higher confidence you can have behind that response. It's going to help you with operational efficiency. Where it might take you a couple hours to write something, you provide a good solid prompt. AI will provide you with the framework, and then you are just massaging it, making sure it has your voice and the information is correct that's being reflected in that prompt, in that response. Decision support, you can actually have AI give you what if scenarios when you are faced with a challenge or a problem. And the better the data is, the better the what if scenarios are. And then it's going to help produce better content for you in the end. So let's talk about what a prompt framework looks like. A prompt framework is really just a structure or a repeatable template. So if you have an effective prompt framework, you can feed it into the AI tool of choice, and you will hopefully start to see that you're getting consistent type reports. So what does a prompt look like? First, you want to give it structure. You want to make sure that you format it so it's clear, and we're going to practice that today. So we're going to get to that. First, I want to walk through what the framework looks like and give you some more contextual information, and then we're going to jump into writing prompts. So you want to format it for clarity, and then you want to give it context and goal. Why and what for? Like, what is the thing that you want from this? Depending on the prompt, you may need to outline the steps, because if it's something that's complex, you want to order the information in a manner so when you get your result, it makes sense. And then you're just going to write the task. An important thing about the prompt is simulating a persona. Some of you may know what a persona is. Let's just break it down. The persona is really the fictional representation of either the person who is writing the thing or the audience that will be consuming the thing. So a couple of examples I've got here is act as a financial analyst. Respond as a marketing expert. What we're going to get into in day 2 is some of the definitions behind some of these things around simulating the personas, because we're going to be talking about large language models and why that's important and how that helps you with the accuracy of your response. But right now, we're just going to set up the framework. And so you have a persona. Act like a chief of staff. The software that I use. So I'm always in ChatGPT, but I use a variety of different AI platforms. But because I've done a lot of my work in ChatGPT, it knows me very, very well. And so the likelihood that it gives me responses that are akin to a chief of staff, the confidence level is very high. But again, we have to be mindful and verify the information, because AI will respond to you with a wrong answer, knowing it's dead right, but it is wrong. An example that I can share with you is my husband was given an open book test to take. And we used AI to see if we could get some of the responses. And I would say 70% of the time it was right. And we would find when it was wrong, but AI, no, they it was sure that it was right. So you always need to validate your information when you've got AI providing you with a response. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write the task. So we're going to be as specific as possible. We want to be very concise. So don't use filler words. And then you want to frame it as a command or a request. You're telling it to do something for you because you want something. So now when we're outlining the task, if it is something that is nuanced or complicated, you want to try to break it down as much as possible and provide the sequence of events first, then, and then. Close with. And then you may have to set the priorities. Now, the time savings, again, with using AI is instead of you taking a couple of hours to write the whole thing, you provide AI with enough context and information, and it will spit back something to you that you will then massage and clean up. So instead of spending 2 hours, you might spend half an hour. So it does require work. I think there is this misnomer that, well, if I give AI my prompt, it's going to give it back to me perfected. It is not. And never, never, never take exactly what it gives you and use that. Always review it, revise it, and make sure that it's nuanced for exactly what you're trying to do. So let's talk about what context and goal look like. Who is the target audience? Who is this being written for, or who is doing the writing? Any background information that you can share. Now, when you're looking at sharing background information, you want to ensure that there's nothing in there that's proprietary or anything that you don't want to have shared with the entire world. Because when we talk about LLMs, the large learning models, when something goes into those models, it's just like the internet. You can't pull it back. It's just there. So you've got to feel comfortable that the information that you're feeding your AI platform is information you're happy with them having. So any background information is helpful, and relevant constraints, no more than 200 words or whatever else might make sense. And then if there are industry specifics, you want to include that also. Goal setting, what is the outcome that you would like to have? And then if there are success metrics that are associated with that outcome, if you want to include, what is the purpose of this request? And then what is the end use of this output? So what I'd like you to do right now is go to your AI platform of choice. Some people use ChatGPT, some people will use Perplexity, whatever tool that you want to use. And I am going to switch for a moment because I'm going to share my screen so we can do this together. So the tool, let's do a stop share real quickly. All right. Let me know if you can now see my screen. Just thumbs up would be great. Let's go back to, I'm going to go to this screen. Yes, this is the one that I want you all to see. So go ahead and take a moment. And like I said, pick the AI tool of your choice that you would like to use. And we are going to type in this prompt. So we talked about a persona. So we're going to tell it to act like a experience. Let's get that to spell correctly for me. HR policy writer. Okay. We're going to just feed we're going to feed ChatGPT a lot of information, or we're going to see what kind of output it gives us. Then we wanted to create a remote work policy. And just follow along with me. Do this in your AI tool of choice. Then we're going to tell it to define eligibility. Now, there's enough information within these language models that it can pull up something fairly generic. So we're not going to do something that is unique to our organization. I just want it to give me some information. So eligibility. We want it to give us information about equipment, hours, and communication. Then we want to give it some more context. This is for a tech company with a 50% remote workforce. Finally, we want to provide it with some structure. So you can tell it what kind of tone. You can do a casual tone. With this one, we want to do a formal tone. We want 5 sections. And then we want bullet points for clarity. Let's see what AI is going to give us. The first thing it does, it restates what we are asking it to do. Now, again, this is super generic. We didn't give it very much information. We just want to see what is it going to spit out. This is a pretty nice starting point. Now, you would have to take this and layer on top of it what is specific for your team, your organization, and the things that make the most sense. But for a starting point, it's given me everything that I need. It saved me a couple hours of just writing this on my own. Let's talk about what we've learned. So we picked a business case. We gave it a custom prompt. We tested it. And then you're reviewing your results. Jennifer, that's exactly correct. AI is helping her brainstorm and think of things she probably wouldn't have thought of. It's not replacing what she's doing, but it's helping her think through different things that maybe she didn't think of. So what we're going to do now, we're going to write a couple more prompts. Let me go ahead and switch my screen one more time. And since we're in chat, I'm going to open up my notepad. We're going to spend a little bit more time in chat some more. So now I'm going to ask it, because it knows me very well, I'm going to say, and again, follow along with me, help me write a professional bio for my LinkedIn. I want to give it a little bit more context. Again, this is a very simple prompt. So I say I work in project management and I want it to sound confident, but not too formal. And let's see what it tells me. Now, again, because I've worked a lot in ChatGPT, it knows me pretty well. So when I look at this, I'm a project management professional who thrives at the intersection of people. We've all heard AI use the word intersection, so that's always a dead giveaway. But you want to review it. You want to customize it to you, but it gave me a great starting point. Why does this prompt work? Because it's clear, it's concise, it's specific, without needing to have any technical language. Let's do one that's a little bit more nuanced. So in this one, we'll tell it, act as a communication coach. We're going to ask it to, I need 3 paragraphs. I hit it too soon. We're going to do that one more time. Act as a communication coach. I need, there we go. I need 3 paragraphs for an elevator pitch. Correct that also. An elevator pitch for a chief of staff applying to a tech. Yes, Dana, I'll definitely send that to you. Let me type this one in and then I'll post it. So you all, I'll bring it back down so you can see it. I need 3 paragraphs for an elevator pitch for a chief of staff applying to a tech startup. And then highlight skills in strategic planning, cross-functional leadership, and change management. Let's see what it gives me. It gave me a nice brief elevator pitch. So I can cut and I can use this as something that is moving forward. So now let's see, Dana, the second prompt about the bio. Let me grab that second prompt. I'm going to hold it just for a second here so you can go ahead and grab it. It was, I need a professional. Help me write a professional bio for my LinkedIn. I work in whatever is the space that you work in. And I want it to sound confident, but not too formal. Hopefully that helps and you're able to capture that, Dana. We're going to move into now, when you're thinking about writing emails within chat, you want to make sure that you define the audience, who you're writing to, and why. You want to choose an appropriate tone. We talked about structuring with key elements, the body of the email, the call to action, and the signature. And then you want to draft it, refine it, and do it again, and do it again. And you want to finalize your personal version. Before I close this out, the thing that I wanted to also share is, you know what, I'm just going to move on to the next one. I want to share with you, there's so many applications that today you can use whatever AI software of choice that you have out there. You can do large data analysis, you can look at strategic documents, and you can create digital twins. And that's the thing that I want to make sure that you recognize. Like, we scratch the surface with just writing a couple of prompts and understanding what the framework looks like. So you can actually write a prompt that's going to give you the results that you're looking for and that you need. Tomorrow night, when we get together, we're going to talk a lot more about the history of AI, where it started. And if you received the emails that were reminding you of this call, I added a couple of videos where AI, the whole idea of computers thinking, this was an idea that was thought about back in the 40s and the 50s. So AI is not something that just happened in the last 10 years. Like I said, we've just barely scratched the surface. And so before we talk about the rest of the things that you're going to learn tomorrow night when you join me, what I wanted to definitely talk to everybody about is there's so much that we can actually do. There's so many things that as you're looking to develop your career, that not only if you're a strategic operator, how do you fit that strategic operator mold? How do you develop a framework or career plan for you to be able to do that? And so I want to also include you and invite you to book some time with me. I've added a link here because there's a lot of different ways for us to be able to work together and figure out, how do we up level what you're doing? How do we leverage AI fully? How do we make sure that you're your resume, your whole body, your work reflects the things that we've discussed on this call today. And the only way that I'll be able to understand that is if we get on a call and we have a conversation of what are the goals that you're trying to accomplish. I've touched a little bit about the Chief of Staff Academy, which is a program that is now certified. So if you want to get some formal training on how to be an effective Chief of Staff, the Chief of Staff Academy is the thing that you want to do. You'll have access to templates, playbooks, everything like that. And so I invite you to take a moment, book a call with me. And if you book the call, it doesn't need to be booked by tomorrow, but if you book it doesn't need to be scheduled by tomorrow, but if you book it by tomorrow, if you find one of the service offerings that I offer works best for you, you'll get 20% off of that particular coaching package. And so take a moment, think about the things that we discussed. Like I said, we've just scratched the surface of what a chief of staff can do. We're going to talk a lot more in detail about the things that you can do as a person who's trying to leverage AI. We're going to talk about how you can walk away from each one of these conversations with some prompts that you can use today. I don't want to just talk about the theory. I want to talk about the application. I, again, am extremely grateful that you chose to spend an hour of your time with me today. I hope that you learned something new that you didn't know. I hope that it scratched an itch, because if you were unfamiliar with AI and you're like, I feel a little bit confident that I can use AI, I literally have a variety of AI platforms open every day when I'm working, because it's always helping me come up with things that I may not have been thinking. I hope that as we talked about the chief of staff role, you probably saw yourself in a lot of the responsibilities that a chief of staff or strategic operator is doing, and asking yourself, how can I do that? How do I get there? What are the things that I need to do? Uh, I am here to help you understand what worked for me, and let me see what can work for you. So I'm going to be signing off. Again, thank you so much for joining. I hope you were able to get some techniques that were helpful for you. I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow as we go even deeper in AI, and we're going to have our browsers open. We're going to be playing around some more in it. And if you've got questions between now and then, like I said, book a discovery call with me or just drop me a DM and let's have a conversation. So wherever you are in the globe, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow, same time. Thank you, everybody, and have a good one.